So let's move into our first model, an oligopoly with collusion. With collusion, sometimes also referred to as the small number of firms acting as a cartel, we have to take certain assumptions. The model assumptions we're going to use here is that firms make identical products and firms coordinate their quantities and prices towards what's best for the overall group. In this model, the few number of firms act as though they are just one firm with monopoly power. Here is our standard picture of a monopoly. What the firms in a collusion market are trying to do is basically replicate the results of a monopoly market. However, if they can't, what would end up happening is the price would be driven down to PC and the quantity would be driven up to QC, the competitive outcome. What firms are trying to do is they're trying to get together and coordinate their actions to limit the quantity and to increase the price and thus create this area of producer surplus. The firms could then get together and split that producer surplus. The better they can collude, the closer they will get to the monopoly quantity and the closer they will get to the monopoly price. Then the firms have a bigger area to split in terms of producer surplus. So this model, if we have perfect collusion, shows that these firms all get this area of producer surplus and then split it. This can be of major concern, as Adam Smith pointed out on page 145 of The Wealth of Nations. He said, "People of the same trade seldom meet together, even for merriment and diversion, but the conversation ends in a conspiracy against the public or in some contrivance to raise prices." And Adam Smith is right. Firms would love to get together and raise prices and coordinate to act more like a monopoly. But collusion is not easy. Without any penalty for cheating the system, it's likely to unravel. Cheating being doing what is in your best interest as a firm and not what is in all firms' best interest. This is sort of like a prisoner's dilemma, if you're familiar with that terminology. Each firm has the incentive to cheat the whole system, but it would be better if we all cooperated. Thus, market collusion is unlikely to be a Nash equilibrium. In a prisoner's dilemma, cooperating is not a Nash equilibrium. It's in a firm's best interest to move after we have reached that state of cooperate. We're likely to see cheating. Many point to that famous passage by Smith as evidence that Smith believed in the problems with markets, or as an argument against markets themselves because of market power through collusion. This previous quote is often shown exactly as I had in the previous slide. See the popular computer game Civilization 4, which has expansion packs, etc., and is immensely popular. They just list the quote as, people of the same trade seldom meet together, even for merriment and diversion, but the conversation ends in a conspiracy against the public. But that standalone quote, as a reading of Smith's intention, is quite poor. In addition, it's poor economics to stop your analysis of collusion markets without considering the rest of Smith's real sentiment. His goal was not to show that unfettered capitalism was apt to have firms run over the public with their conspiratorial action. In fact, his intention was just the opposite. And it's quite clear without much research. Literally, the next two sentences, the only other sentences in that paragraph, can get you there. Let's look at the last sentence of the paragraph. Though the law cannot hinder the people of the same trade from sometimes assembling together, it ought to do nothing to facilitate such assemblies, much less render them necessary. Smith was very realistic about the goals of firms, but what he was showing is that though the market is not always perfect, we can have real problems when we try to regulate those firms with intervention. The surrounding paragraphs in The Wealth of Nations are all anti-interventionist in their tone, and point to the idea that interventions to stop unfettered capitalism and its evils are often the source, not the cure, of collusive behavior that helps a few firms and hurts the consumers and other producers. Smith was very pragmatic and used a comparative institutions approach here and elsewhere to compare non-perfect markets with the reality of markets shaped by intervention. It's a good idea to follow Smith in this practice.